Take three. Hey guys, Mr. Tweet here. So today I'm doing things a little bit backwards. I had you guys watch the videos first, and then I'm going to come through and explain them afterwards because some of the concepts in these videos were a little bit tougher than the ones we watched before. So remember the overall theme of the course today is we're trying to explain why it is that people, how is it that people hate Congress but love their congressmen or women? How is it that people, that in polls, for instance, overwhelmingly people like the job that their congressperson is doing, and yet they think Congress overall is doing a terrible job. And so we keep re-electing the same people year after year after year, even though we almost all think they're doing a terrible job. So how is that? The first thing that we have to remember is the earmarks and pork barrel spending from the first video. So remember that in Congress, in order to get enough votes to get laws passed, sometimes you have to give stuff to people to get them to get on board with it. So over time, maybe I trade a favor to you, you trade a favor to me, we kind of form an alliance, and then that just explodes into, every bill that's passed. Usually there's some amount of pork in that bill. So, an example of this might be if there's, a bill. Maybe I'm a congressperson from San Diego. I'm concerned because maybe the military is thinking about closing, Miramar, and that would mean the loss of a lot of jobs if that military base gets closed. So I want included in the bill special money to keep Miramar open. Maybe you're a senator from Indiana, and in Indiana, maybe they have a car part factory there. And so you want money in the next bill that's going to go to help keep that auto part factory open or whatever. So what happens is over time is that congressmen and women, they're trading these favors back and forth. Now, when the money is going to go to when it's my congressperson getting the money, I'm happy because that money is going into my local community. It's helping the local economy, and I think it's great. For everybody else, I think it's a waste. That government is wasteful, Congress is wasteful, they're always spending all this money that they don't need to spend, because when it's on something in my backyard, I'm happy because that money, part of it finds its way to my pocket maybe through, business and multiplying and stuff like that. But if it's extra money going to Idaho, extra money going to North Carolina, I think that's just wasteful because it's not going to benefit me directly. So that's the first reason why Americans don't like Congress, but they like their congressperson, because basically that when there's kind of the spending that we perceive as being wasteful is usually money being spent on other people. So the next reason why people don't like their congressmen, but they don't like Congress, but they like their congressman, is because of iron triangles. So that remember with iron triangles, what happens is that you get this relationship that's formed between the congressman or woman, between special interest groups, and between the bureaucracy or the people who carry out the laws. So usually what ends up happening is that if I am a congressman or woman, I want to keep my special interest groups happy that got me elected. So in general, what that's going to mean is that means I'm going to be listening to those special interest groups. I'm going to be doing kind of their bidding, maybe doing what they want. Typically, the special interest groups that I'm interested in, they tend to be pretty powerful, influential organizations in the area where I'm elected. So for instance, if I am from the state of, Iowa, it's going to be really important to me that I have the support of farmer organizations behind me. And also, the bureaucracy in charge of, farmers is going to be a key resource for me to lean on as well. So what ends up happening is congressmen and women, they end up forming these really strong relationships with special interest groups. Now, what does that mean? Well, if I'm from Iowa, I'm glad that they have a really close relationship with, the local farming organization or whatever, the local farming lobbyist group, for instance. Then, that's going to be good news for me. But for everyone else, it's going to be frustrating because they're going to see congressmen and congresswomen that just cater to special interest groups. So what ends up happening is congressmen, congresswomen, they have these really strong relationships with special interest groups. It allows them to get lots of votes to get reelected, and it keeps the people around them happy. But everywhere else, people perceive that person as being a tool of special interests. The last reason why people really like their congressperson, but they hate Congress, is because of gerrymandering. That when Congress people are allowed to draw, when politicians are allowed to draw their own electoral borders, what ends up happening, remember, is they end up taking and they create these really extreme districts. So what ends up happening is you could get two districts right next to each other, where people are kind of, some of them are on the left, some of them are on the right, some Democrats, some Republicans. But because of the way that they draw the lines, what you might end up with is a district that's either really conservative or really liberal. And so they're going to end up voting for a really extreme person to represent their district. Now, they're going to love that really extreme person. They're going to, if they're like, far on the left, they're going to like having a really far leftist that represents them. Or if they're really far on the right, they're going to really like having a real strong conservative that represents them. But, in general, what ends up happening is Congress ends up getting filled with these really extreme people on the right and the left. Most of us aren't on the extreme right or extreme left. Most people are closer to the center. And so what ends up happening is you get these districts that are really skewed, not all of them, but some that are really skewed. And so you end up with, again, those people, when they get a really conservative or a really liberal politician, they're happy because their district is skewed that way. But they don't like Congress overall because Congress overall is forced to compromise between liberal and conservative. So that's another reason why some people really like their congressman or woman, but they don't like Congress in general. All right. So I'll see you in just a minute to kind of explain the assignment that you're going to be doing for today. All right. Take care.